Welcome to On the Clock. I'm your host, Elisa Gums. This is the third of our four-part series on equity, brought to you by Capital One. On the last episode, we talked about how Black executives are using their influence to drive change in the workplace. Today is all about small business and what we can do together to strengthen Black and Brown small businesses so that they can, in turn, strengthen local communities and economies. Joining us for this important discussion are Zainep Mahmoud, who leads acquisitions marketing for Small Business Card at Capital One, and Marty McDonald, the founder of Boss Women Media Group, which cultivates a community of more than 100,000 professional and entrepreneurial women. Ladies, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
We all know that launching a business is an enormous undertaking. Marty, can you share what your experience as a business owner has been like and what was the biggest challenge for you when you were getting started?
Listen, I need you to get some popcorn. I need you to grab some wine. It has been an undertaking like no other. When I think back about my career trajectory, I came from corporate America. I worked in brand marketing, brand management for 11 plus years. And I didn't see myself in spaces and places. And when oftentimes you don't see yourself, you don't see possibility, right? And so because I never saw myself, I went through a lot of, I just went through a lot of insecurities, if I'm completely honest, right? I went through the insecurity of, am I smart enough? When you're in corporate America, that's the biggest compliment you can get, that you're the smart girl, right? And so I went through a lot of different phases. And I decided, I know there must be other women who are experiencing just what I'm facing, sitting here in my cube. Am I good enough? Do I belong here? What does my career trajectory plan look like? And so I decided to create this brunch experience at really with 25 girls at Neiman Marcus Cafe to connect with other women. I had my mentor come speak. And when I conducted this first event, it was March 26, 2016. Boss Women Media was not even a thing yet. And I was like, I left from that event believing I'm not alone. There's so many other women who are experiencing what I'm facing in corporate America. This is a thing. Following fall, I went to a conference, and the conference was put on primarily for a Caucasian audience. When I walked into that space, I immediately knew this is what I need to create for Black women, for women of color. And so I go back home, I cook up some stuff, and I created a business probably within 6 months, all while grinding my 9 to 5. So I would grind my 9 to 5, and then I would have my 5 to 9. And then I just faced a lot of personal issues in corporate America. I had a miscarriage, and I said, it's time for me to make an exit. And so I made an exit 2018. I said, I'm going to go live my best life. I'm going to go figure it out. I am a skilled professional woman. If this does not work out, I can always come back and get a job. And I betted on myself. I took the chance on myself finally because I saw what my possibility could look like. And I created Boss Women Media. That year that I created Boss Women Media was really kind of like our breakout year. I took all of my 401k. I spent $40,000 of my 401k on creating and establishing this brand. And I just kind of took it from there and grew it into a community where brands could really rally behind the voices of Black women and Black programming. And I always had this vision in mind and this end goal in mind. And I wasn't going to let anything stop me from really pursuing the career of my dreams, which is Boss Women Media.
I think your story is so relatable in that, you had this need, you wanted to bring it to fruition, you paid for it with your own money. Lack of access to capital has historically been a challenge for Black business owners. Zainep, what do you see as the challenges and the opportunities for Black entrepreneurs, particularly women of color, as they work to get their businesses off the ground?
Great question. So a lot of what Marty mentioned is true across all Black business owners, frankly. Just being Black in America is challenging, and add to that, trying to start a business and grow it is challenging. And we run into systemic biases and stereotypes even in that setting. So it's really important for us to come prepared and ready to go. And there are a number of things that Black business owners can do to really circumvent some of those challenges. The first is to have a really well put together business plan. I know I've talked to Marty about this all the time, and we're passionate about this point. You know, you have to put on paper in deck form what is distinctive about your business. What's your revenue model? What is your cost structure? How are you unique versus your competitors? What are you offering to the market that's not there yet? And what are your future financial cash flows and your financials? All of those things are really important to put on paper so that you can shop it around to potential investors, potential lenders, expand your network and find mentors to help you. All of those things are really start with having a solid business plan in place. And then that second piece is the network piece, right? I think Marty said the last time we chatted, your network is your net worth, and it's particularly important as an entrepreneur. So there are organizations like Marty's organization that really connects people together. It helps you expand your network so that you can find potential investors, potential people to help you with your business ideas, and advisors. So those are two really critical things that I think Black business owners can get right to really circumvent some of the challenges that we have coming out of the gate.
We also know that both business acumen and confidence are so important on that journey to accessing capital. Marty, you speak with hundreds of other entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs all the time. What are some of the common questions or confusions that aspiring entrepreneurs have when it comes to funding their business?
You know, the biggest question that I get is they don't know where to start. You know, when you don't have access to the same connections, the same resources as sometimes our white counterparts, you don't know where to start, right? So I have this business idea, but I don't know how to take an idea and implement it into a legitimate business. Where do I start, right? How do I create my first sale? How do I brand my product, right? It's sometimes those tangible resources that so often we take for granted that others may not, right? I was reading this article earlier from McKinsey & Co. that said if if every Black person in America owned a business, right, it would change the trajectory of our economy to $150 trillion, which would employ 80 million new people, right? And that's kind of insane to think every Black person, right? But actually, it's not even a third of Black people who own businesses, while Black women are the fastest growing entrepreneurs out of anyone, right? So it just doesn't add up in terms of why are we the fastest, but we're still not equating to be the largest, the most profitable, the resources are not attainable. And so when you think about that, that's the first question that I get is where do I start? Confidence plays a huge part in it. You know, when I first started out, to Z's point, my business plan was not full throttle, right? My business plan was I could do this or I could do that, right? It was very optional because I didn't have the foundational piece of how to take my business from an idea to a profitable business that made money. And so really the trajectory that changed for me is in 2018, I went to this conference. I pitched a CEO of Sugarfina. I had just read this Nielsen data report. I'm like a data junkie. And it was called Black Girl Magic is Real. It talked about the buying power and behavior of Black women. By this year, right now, 2021, Black women are the highest spending consumer out of any ethnicity. We know that, right? Black women will spend a penny on a bag, on some hair. Like we will spend our coin, but brands don't in return spend back on us, right? We're not showing up in advertisement. We're not showing up in the resources, right, that some of these organizations are given. And so I just read this report. I go up to the CEO of Sugarfina because she was talking about how they make these taboo gummy bears. I thought she should make a gummy bear called Black Girl Magic. And it was like on the spot. And she should let me come to her locations, and I'll have events across the US called Black Girl Magic, and it's the Black Girl Magic Tour. And from that conversation, we ended up with going on a 5-city tour at Sugarfina in 2019. But that confidence that I had, and I was equipped with information that made me stand out, was really the thing that changed my business. And it really helped me formulate what my business plan was and what my revenue strategy was for Bossman Media. And sometimes that one yes can change everything for you. And so I think it's so important that the resources must be attainable, but there also has to be someone willing to take a bet out on these organizations, these businesses, so that that confidence kicks in and they can continue with their momentum.
So Zainep, as Marty just said, so many entrepreneurs don't know where to start. What resources are available for those new entrepreneurs as they prepare to pursue access to capital, whether that's from a bank or a VC, or even just thinking through the ways to make the most out of tools like a business credit card?
That's a great question. So I think one of the biggest questions to answer is really what kind of financing you're looking for. Is it debt or is it equity? And I think there are key trade-offs there, and every business is unique, so you have to assess what makes the most sense for your business. But for example, for debt financing, you have to be very clear about how you're going to pay that debt back. If your loan, for example, is going to fuel cash flows that will help you pay that loan back, then that's great. But you have to be clear about that before going into it. And from an equity perspective, really, because you're giving up a portion of your business, you have to be very clear about what that investor is giving to you that you cannot get yourself or that your network can't get for you. So that can be everything from strategic advice, opening up new investors to invest in your business, helping you operationally. They have to bring something to the table that is significant and unique and that you can't bring yourself. So once a business owner decides, okay, is it debt or is it equity, then the real work begins. On the debt side, you have to already have great business credit. So if you haven't built your business credit, start there. Grameen Bank and Kiva, for example, are great places to start where you can get microloans and really start to demonstrate that you have a really strong credit from a business perspective. And then you can start to work with larger financial institutions to get larger loans. On the equity side, that again ties right back to your network. Your network is going to be where you really find the right investors for your business there.
And I would even add to that, our partnership with Capital One has really lent itself into creating these grant opportunities through pitch competitions. And so last year we gave away $50,000 in pitch dollars. The lady who won the first prize last year said, because I got that one yes, it gave me the confidence and the courage to continue on to do another pitch and apply for the next pitch. And by the end of the year, I had won over $100,000 in pitch dollars to really invest in my business, right? So sometimes we're not necessarily looking for money that we have to necessarily pay back right now. There's a lot of opportunities for Black women. And I'm really grateful for the partnership with Capital One that we're able to push that out. And this year we'll have the same where we can push out dollars for our community to really take their business or idea to the next level. And there's a ton of grants that are available right now for Black and brown women.
So Marty, Zainep has spoken a number of times about the importance of the network here, which is, exactly what you do. Can you speak about why it's so essential for entrepreneurs to find a mentor and even to become a mentor to other entrepreneurs?
It is critical for, a Black woman to see and be exposed to a business that is thriving, that is healthy, that is profitable, because then she can see the possibility for herself. But I also want to be careful when we say the word mentor, because so often Black women can be over mentored and underfunded. And so we have to make sure that we create not just mentor opportunities, but we give them tangible resources on the how, right? I say it all the time, fund me, mentor me, but fund me, because that's how I'm going to change generational wealth, right? That's how I'm going to be able to create opportunities for my daughter's generation, for her children's children. Fund me, because black and brown families are so disproportionate from white counterparts in what wealth even looks like. And we're so far behind the landscape of what business looks like. The way that we change it is through funding. And yes, a mentor can be great. And I believe that you look at a mentor across the board. I have a mentor older than me, younger than me. I have a mentor that doesn't look like me, but also I'm leaning into my mentor to help connect me, and not just mentor me, because the connection piece of who they know is the most valuable piece that anyone needs in thriving in their business. And in return, it's a mutual relationship, right? You're not just taking from your mentor and you're not giving anything back. It's a mutual back and forth where it's a collective and everyone is growing, eating, and thriving through that lens. But I also wanted to say that because so often that's the first thing people say. Do you have a mentor? Don't over mentor me and underfund me. Make sure that I'm getting access to both.
I love that point, Marty. And in particular, I learned a while back, there is a difference between mentorship and sponsorship. Mentors teach you what to do, help you understand what to do, and sponsors create opportunities for you. There's a big difference.
There is a huge difference. And I think mostly when we talk about sponsorship, we talk about corporate America, but it's important for entrepreneurs too. And nobody really talks about that point in terms of creating opportunities, saying, hey, I know this entrepreneur who could possibly handle that for you, who might be right for this contract that you have or this grant that you have. So that's absolutely a great point.
And I think that also it's critical that in that, from the lens of entrepreneurship, it's twofold. It's women like Z sitting at the table, right? And when she sees a business like myself, she sees herself through it, and that she can advocate for what Boss Women Media is contributing to the world. See, this conversation is not just about entrepreneurship or women in corporate America. It encompasses both. We need Black women in corporate America to make sure that they're exposing everyone that have created these systems to entrepreneurs that are out in the spaces that may not look like some of the people sitting in corporate America. And so I think it's a 360 approach on how we're going to create change for small businesses. But Z being an advocate for my organization then helps me fund another organization. And it's a lift as you rise situation.
There have always been challenges for Black business owners, but we are coming off of an unprecedented year, almost year and a half now. Marty, how has the pandemic affected Black business?
It's exposed Black businesses. Post George Floyd has changed everything for the world, right? It's crazy. George Floyd's name will forever be in everyone's mouth. It is a time in history that will forever be remembered and reverence because of his life, right? It's exposed opportunities for Black businesses. Black businesses that were equipped, that were ready, that were prepared, got the shine that they needed during this season so desperately. People were having brave conversations. People were looking and searching for Black businesses. I remember last summer, we put together this Black business directory, right? Like we were like, if you're a Black business, put your name on it. We want to shout you out. We want to tell people. And we had to be prepared. But just like our organization was prepared, Black businesses have to be prepared. This is your moment. This is your time. And I don't know if our time will ever come in this light again, where people are open. And so, I think that the pandemic has changed conversations. Now we have to continue those conversations. We have to continue being brave in spaces, and we have to continue making people allies so that we, our community can continue to thrive post-pandemic and for many generations to come.
Zainep, what is Capital One doing to support Black business owners as they emerge from the pandemic and make sure that they get the financial and the educational resources that Marty was just mentioning that they need to get on the path to recovery and to thrive in this new normal?
Absolutely. So before I talk about what we're doing, I just want to underscore how important Capital One believes small businesses and Black-owned small businesses are, not only to our national economy and our local economies, but to your point, our local communities. They're critical. And so last year, we launched our Impact Initiative, which is a $200 million 5-year commitment to really help support socioeconomic mobility by really closing the gaps in both equity and opportunity. And one portion of that investment is focused on small businesses, where we are actively working with community development financial institutions to infuse capital into these companies across the nation. We're working with nonprofit organizations who specialize in focusing on small businesses to get them free educational resources to really come out of this pandemic successfully. And we have our own initiatives in 3 cities across the US, New Orleans, Richmond, Virginia, and Dallas, Texas, where we are specifically collaborating with local organizations to accelerate Black-owned and minority-owned businesses and provide them with educational tools and technical resources that will really help them thrive. Aside from that really massive initiative that we also have an array of financial products and tools that are completely curated specifically for small businesses. And right on our website, CapitalOne.com, we have a completely free library of educational resources that are specifically meant to help small business owners understand how they can get out of this really tough sort of survival mode that they've been in over the last year and a half, and really pivot to really growing.
This question is for both of you. As we think about the post-COVID landscape and how it's shifted for Black business owners, are there like pivots or strategies they may have adopted out of necessity during this time that really should become permanent parts of their business model going forward?
Definitely.
There's been so many that I personally have used, right? I mentioned earlier around the data, right? The decision making that our organization takes is from data. It's a data decision making, right? What's happening in our community? What are the needs of our community? How can we take $10,000 and what would that do to a Black-owned business, right? We're looking at the data of it. Are there product-based businesses that women are creating, or are they service-based businesses? I think all of that plays a part of this larger story that we're trying to tell and advocate for when we're sitting in spaces, being able to, share with Capital One from Boston Media perspective. This is what our community needs. This is what we're seeing. Our pool of women are facing with these issues in corporate America and in entrepreneurship. So what are some ways that we can collaborate together to bring solutions to the table? But I start first with the data. So anyone who has an organization, whether it's a product-based business or service-based business, I would encourage them to look at the data. What's happening with their customer base? Sometimes we get so caught up in what our sales are, we forget about who our target audience is. My target audience, her name's Tamara. Tamara works in corporate America. She's the median age of 34 years old. She went to college. She has some sort of post collegiate degree or certificate. She's single or on her way to being married. Like, I know her verbatim. I'm able to break her down. And I know what she needs. She's either struggling with trying to navigate, how do I move from this place I'm in to a management leadership position, or how do I make my exit in corporate America? I think about Tamara when I make pitch decks. I think about Tamara when I'm looking for research and data, and when I'm serving her up to other organizations, because Tamara was me. Tamara was me when I was sitting in corporate America. I can relate to her. Tamara is the women in our community. And so I know the audience that I'm going after because I've done the data mining to really create solutions for her.
And to add to
Zainep,
that,
yes.
yes. So one other big thing that I would love to add to Marty's point is just around technology. So when the pandemic hit, so many businesses realized, especially those who were just purely brick and mortar, that e-commerce is something that they have to get right. And so we recently ran a survey at Capital One where we take the pulse of small business owners. And in particular, Black business owners said that, and nearly 40% of them said that technical and digital transformation work is one of the biggest things that really stops them from growing their businesses. And I think it was exacerbated, frankly, in the context of this pandemic. So one thing that I would really urge small businesses and Black-owned businesses to do is to really ensure that they have the right technology to grow their businesses. There are a ton of resources, including free resources out there for them to leverage. We actually have a partnership with the Association for Enterprise Opportunity that provides free resources and free trainings and classes that really help businesses understand how to effectively market on social media, for example, or really stand up that e-commerce platform to accelerate their businesses. So please leverage those free resources out there to adopt the technology that will help you thrive.
That is such an important point. If you were not digital when the pandemic hit, then you were pretty much not a business anymore. And, more than a year later now, if you have not made that transition, then, I think the three of us would all agree, we want to shake you a little bit. Like, you have to get with it. Which leads me to the question, are there any other things like that? Marty mentioned that she is listening to what the women are saying that they need right now and communicating that to partner organizations. You both have talked about the importance of data and technology. Are there additional resources, special resources or specific to this time that are needed to help entrepreneurs make that transition out of the pandemic?
Yeah, I would say you have to show up for your brand. This is your organization. This is your business that you've created, right? Show up for it. People are paying attention right now. If you have the listening ears of organizations, of people, of consumers, show up for your brand. Invest in your brand, invest in your branding, invest in your marketing. Take your brand seriously. If you take your brand seriously, other people will take your brand seriously. And so I think for me specifically, when I'm talking and connecting with women who are starting businesses and I'm looking at pitch decks of other women, I encourage them to take it seriously. But you have to know the solution that you're providing. And you have to be very clear on what that solution is. You have to repeat it back to yourself over and over. This is the solution I'm creating. This is how it's going to make impact. But taking your brand seriously, from hiring the right graphic designer to making sure that your website is on point, to making sure that your customer service. Listen, when I first started, I was invoicing, I was accounting, I was graphics, I was marketing, I was videographer, right? And so, but I decided to take my business seriously and make some investments in some areas, right? And we have still a long way to go as I continue to grow my business. But if I don't take it seriously as a business owner, no one else is going to. So I would encourage anyone who's listening to make the investment that you need to take your business so that others will support you and really back you.
So I want to end.
I love that point.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Can I just add one point?
Absolutely.
So I love that point, Marty. That's an excellent point. And I would add, I think it's really important for business owners to take a step back from operating and have some space to think about strategy. Especially in this time, to your point, Marty, you have to always be distinctive, right? And the landscape changes, your competitors change, the technology that drives your businesses change, what people want change all the time. And so it's almost like skating ahead of the hockey puck, I think is the phrase. You've got to get ahead of it, think ahead about strategy, and don't get so caught up in just operating your business that you're not thinking ahead and looking to see what the trends are moving towards.
I think that's one of the best pieces of business advice that you could possibly give an entrepreneur. And I've heard it before. It's sort of like, don't get so busy doing the business that you don't have time to run the business. Step back and plan it. It's your business to plan. So I want to end by really looking forward. A lot of people start their own businesses because they want to build wealth, and specifically because they want to build generational wealth, which has been a challenge for Black Americans for generations because of systemic barriers. Marty, how did you address the idea of building wealth when it comes to your own business? And what have you heard from the founders you work with regarding how they have changed their relationships to money?
You know, the relationship with money starts with a mindset first, right? Once you decide that this is what I can achieve, everything changes for you. So I want to say that first of all, money is a mindset. You can be wealthy but live a impoverished mindset and not believe in what you can attain and what you have, right? And so for me, it's really believing in what I'm producing, but also for me, it's being willing to, like I said earlier, bet on myself. I mean, I took my 401k out. I took partial of my 401k out to invest in my business, right? If I hadn't have taken that chance and invested those dollars, then I don't think that we would be in this space that we're in today. And then I'll also say with around money and money mindset, don't be so scared to ask for help. You never know who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone who can help you. And so often we want to make it seem like, oh, we got it all buttoned up. We got it figured out. Or we don't want to ask for help or a handout. Listen, everyone who is a Black entrepreneur in America knows how hard it is. And we're proud of Black people who've created businesses that are sustaining, that are thriving, that are doing well. And so asking for help is a part of creating the change, right? It's a part of someone leaning into you saying, everyone needs help. I needed help. So it's my obligation to help the next person that comes around. But in that's mindset, right? If I go back to it, it's all within the mindset. And so establishing a business is hard. It is not easy at all. I'm not going to sit here and act like it is a cakewalk because it is not. But I believe in what I'm creating so much more than what I could create for someone else in corporate America, and the change and the impact that I'm making for my community so much more, and the empowerment, the resources, the tools for Black women to thrive and shine, that I'm willing to take this very lonely road sometimes to the next level. But it starts with the mindset. And as I shared with that story earlier, me being able to pitch that CEO changed everything for me around mindset. And see, so often you think you're thinking small with it. I remember when I got my first sponsorship, it was $500. I thought $500, someone gave me $500. It was like a big deal, right? But then I got $10,000. Then I got $50,000. Then I got six-figure deals, right? But it was a mindset to believe that I was worth and my organization was worth those opportunities so that the landscape can change for Black America and Black entrepreneurs.
Zainep, how can business owners sustain their financial health for the long term so that they can build these legacies that they're dreaming about?
Yes. So one of the biggest things is cash flow management. Cash flow is king. So please leverage technologies. There's so many technologies out there that businesses can leverage, many of which are actually integrated with their financial institutions for expense management. Cash flow management is most critical. And to add to that piece, it's really important that small business owners are realistic about inflows of cash. So for example, if you know you have a customer who's always 10 days late, build that into your forecast. Let's be realistic, and that is really going to be what's most critical for sustaining. I would also add, again, this networking piece, right? Always continue to expand your network. Always be campaigning, so to speak. So that's also quite critical. And then the last piece is around that strategic thinking. You have to always be in front of that ball, getting ahead of where your industry is so that you are continuing to innovate, really develop the right, focus on the right needs for your target demographic in a way that is innovative, thoughtful, and really keeps you at the lead of the pack.
Ladies, thank you both so much for being here with us today, for the insight that you shared and the advice that you shared, but especially for the work that you both do every day supporting entrepreneurs. On behalf of Black Enterprise, we appreciate it. And thank you all for joining us for this episode of On the Clock, brought to you by Capital One.